Creativity can be made to order if you follow this simple rule. If you expect a scholarly tome on advertising, stop here. I am a mail-order copywriter who makes his living by producing results in carefully measured dollars of profit from the written word. My income, my standard of living, depends bluntly and directly upon my ability to sell. And I have no salesman to help me, no store reputation to help me, no point of purchase reminders, no discounts, no friendly sales clerks to give my products a push. I sell, or do not sell, on the basis of one tool alone: my ad. Therefore, I have done a great deal of thinking and experimenting with these ads. And since I have had the good fortune to own my own mail-order firms for the last 11 years, I have had far greater freedom than most copywriters to put my ideas to a conclusive test and to see whether or not they really work. I believe, as do many other advertising men, that mail order is the greatest copywriting school in the world. In mail order, for reasons which I'll reveal later in this book, you learn techniques and approaches to copy, especially new product and new slant copy, that you learn in no other branch of this business. Some of these techniques I have never seen discussed in any other article or book on copywriting, and I think I've read most of them. I have explained these techniques in detail in the hope that they will prove as profitable to other copywriters as they've been for me. Can they be used by non-mail order copywriters as well? Most assuredly. J.K. Lasker once said that mail order makes a copywriter, but his real payoff comes when he applies his mail order techniques to general advertising. I think that BBD&O, Ted Bates, Ogilvy, Young and Rubicam, and a dozen other agencies prove this every day. Therefore, I've written this book, not from the mail order perspective alone, but from the universal problem of all copywriting: how to write a headline, and an ad that follows it, that will open up an entirely new market for its product, an ad that will give a new product immediate profit, that will give an old product a brand new slant, that will give a competitively battered product a new weapon, not only to protect itself against its imitators, but to actually damage or destroy the loyalty of their following. These objectives cannot be achieved by following somebody else's formula, no matter how successful it was for them. They demand creativity. They demand a brand new headline, a brand new approach to the market, a literal advertising breakthrough, hence the title of this book. This, then, is a practical book of practical rules that produce and exploit creativity, and that are meant to pay off on the very first ad. To put them to work, you start with these basic facts. Writing copy is like playing the stock market or being an atomic physicist. Basically, all three of these professions, copywriting, speculation, and science, are exactly alike. The same keys make each one of them work. And if you realize this, you can double the effectiveness of your copy overnight. Consider these facts. All three of them deal with immense natural forces, gargantuan forces thousands of times more powerful than the men who use them. In science, they are the fundamental energies of the universe. In speculation, they are the billion-dollar tides and currents of the marketplace. In copywriting, there are the hopes and fears and desires of millions upon millions of men and women all over the world. The men who use these forces did not create them. They can neither turn them on nor shut them off. They can neither diminish them nor add to them, but they can harness them. The scientist did not create the energy of the sun, but he can direct that energy into the explosion of an atom bomb. The speculator did not create the enormous growth of the electronics industry after the war, but he can ride that growth to produce a 50 times increase in his capital. And the copywriter does not create the desire of millions of women all over America to lose weight, but he can channel that desire onto a particular product and make its owner a millionaire. This, then, is the end goal: to take these gigantic natural forces and harness them to our own uses. But how do we do it? No two of these forces are alike. Each is unique, each operates in a different way. The same formula, carefully worked out to release atomic energy, fails completely to solve the problem of rocket propulsion. The same pattern of investment that spots the upturn in electronics and makes a fortune, loses that fortune in uranium. And the same advertising appeal that builds an industry in reducing, collapses completely when applied to health foods, even though both advertisements may reach exactly the same audience. Why? Because no formula works twice. Each and every formula is simply the written solution to a particular problem that occurred in the past. Change even one part of that problem, and you need an entirely different formula. That's why memorizing theories won't make you a scientist, or studying charts won't make you a market wizard, or rewriting somebody else's headlines won't make you a copywriter. What will work? Innovation, of course. Continuous, repeated innovation, a steady stream of new ideas, fresh new solutions to new problems, created, not by the impossible route of memory, but by analysis. In a field in which the rules are constantly changing, where the forces that determine the outcome are constantly shifting, where new problems are constantly being encountered every day, rules, formulas, and principles simply will not work. They are too rigid, too tightly bound to the past. They must be replaced by the only known method of dealing with the constantly new analysis. And what is analysis? It is a series of measuring rods, checkpoints, signpost questions that show you where a particular force is going and enable you to get there first. It is a series of rough guesses based on past successes that enables you to cut through the surface of a problem to see what makes it tick. Analysis is the art of asking the right questions and letting the problem dictate the right answers. It is the technique of the breakthrough, and it can be learned just as surely as grammar, mathematics, or spelling. The first part of this book is about analysis applied to the profession of copywriting. Its basic thesis is this: every new market, every new product, every new advertisement is a fresh new problem that never existed before on the face of this earth. Let's get right down to the heart of the matter. The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself and not from the copy. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task, not to create this mass desire, but to channel and direct it. Actually, it would be impossible for any one advertiser to spend enough money to actually create this mass desire. He can only exploit it, and he dies when he tries to run against it. This has been shown time and time again in the automotive field, for example. In 1948, in order to display their rising standard of living, the American public decided they wanted a longer, lower, wider car. Chrysler chose to buck the trend and offered a fine, functional car, with more head, leg, and shoulder room on the inside, but shorter and squatter on the outside. A multi-million-dollar campaign was prepared by one of the most creative agencies in America, but the results, against the tide of mass desire, were catastrophic. In 1954, cars had become universally long, and drivers were appraising each other's car in terms of horsepower. Here was the rise to dominance of a vast new public demand. The twin-H Hudson Hornet, the twin-exhaust Cadillac, the Chrysler 300, all in turn exploited this trend and rode it to gain millions of dollars in extra sales. The Ford company decided to play it down and devoted millions of advertising dollars to sell safety. Again, the advertising ran into a wall of disinterest. Results were non-existent, and the next year Ford produced and advertised the highest horsepower engines in their history. But perhaps the most painful was the Edsel. Here was a good car, backed by a deluge of advertising, that died trying to fight the overwhelming switch in demand to a cheap, simple, inexpensive-to-run compact car. Let me repeat, this mass desire must already be there. It must already exist. You cannot create it, and you cannot fight it. But you can, and must, direct it, channel it, focus it onto your particular product. What is this mass desire, and how is it created? We can define this mass desire quite simply. It is the public spread of a private want. Advertising is a business of statistics. We deal with percentages of population. We address our ads to individuals. And yet the success of our advertising depends on thousands or even millions of these individuals sharing the same response to these ads. The response of wanting our product enough to pay us the price we ask for it. Before these individuals can share this buying response, they must first share the desire upon which our ad is based. Privately, each of them wants the same thing. Publicly, there are enough of them to repay us the cost of advertising, manufacturing, and selling, plus a profit. It is the moment when a private desire is shared by a statistically significant number of people large enough to profitably repay selling these people, that a market is born. This market may consist of a desire shared by only a few thousand people, such as the urge to own fine antiques. Or it may be shared by tens of millions as the desire to lose weight, but it is there, demanding to be satisfied, waiting only for the information that will direct it onto a particular product. Since these mass desires are shared by millions of people, they take years to develop, and they are created by social, economic, and technological forces far greater than advertising itself can command. It is this fact, when used correctly, that gives advertising its enormous potential for profit. By simply directing this gigantic, already existing mass desire, rather than being required to create it, advertising thus commands an economic force hundreds of times more profitable than the mere number of dollars that the advertiser can spend on it. This is the amplification effect of successful advertising. The reason that $1 spent on such advertising can create $50 or even $100 in sales. But this amplification effect takes place only when advertising exploits already existing desire. When it tries to create this desire, it is no longer advertising but education. And, as education, it can produce at best only $1 in sales for every dollar spent on advertising. No single advertiser can afford to educate the American public. He must rely on forces far greater than any advertising budget to build this mass desire. And then, he can make those forces work for him by directing that desire onto his particular product. What are these nationwide forces that create this mass desire? There are many of them, but they fall into two general categories, each presenting its distinct problem to the copywriter. Here are these two categories, with a few specific examples of each. First, let's talk about permanent forces. Mass instinct. The desire of women to be attractive, or men to be virile, or men and women both to keep their health. In this case, the instinct never fades. The desire never changes. The copywriter's problem here is not to pick out the trend. It is there for everyone to see. His job is to distinguish his product from the others that were there before it, to create a fresh appeal, to build a stronger believability, to shift desire from the fulfillment offered by one product to that offered by another. How this is done, we shall see in a moment. A mass technological problem, bad television reception, or corroding automobile mufflers, or the time it takes for aspirin to bring relief. Until the problem is finally solved, the customers will buy and try again. And here the copywriter has the same problem, to offer the same claim of relief as his competitors, but offer it in a new way. Now, let's move on to the forces of change, the beginning, the fulfillment, and the reversal of a trend, style. The sudden mass decision to show off a pay raise by installing a swimming pool in the backyard instead of buying a bigger car. The horsepower appeal of the 50s and its sudden subordination to gas economy. Here the copywriter is dealing with the straws in the wind that may indicate a hurricane. Here he needs sensitivity, foresight, intuition. He must be able to see and catch the rising tide when it's almost imperceptible, sense which of the several appeals that are built into his product he should stress at any particular moment, and when to shift to another, and, always, how to be there first. Mass education, the school primer and the movie screen, the tastes and appearances of society women, television stars, presidential candidates, trickling down to every hamlet in America. Group pressure, backyard gossip, community product pioneers, and equally important, the sum total of all advertising in its unconscious, unplanned, and overall effect of multiplying people's dreams and desires and thus raising their standard of living. Here again, the problem is timing. When does the shift become statistically significant? When do enough people make the change? When should the automotive powerhouse, for example, change its image to become the common man's gas saver? The copywriter is faced with a society containing dozens, even hundreds, of these already existing mass desires. His first job, therefore, is to detect them, inventory them, chart their force and direction. This is a study that will occupy part of every working day for the rest of his life. His second job is to harness his products onto their backs. How to channel mass desire onto your particular product. The copywriter in his work uses three tools: his own knowledge of people's hopes, dreams, desires, and emotions, his client's product, and the advertising message which connects the two. The copywriter performs his work in three stages. In general, they go something like this. First, choose the most powerful desire that can possibly be applied to your product. Every mass desire has three vital dimensions. The first is urgency, intensity, degree of demand to be satisfied. For example, constant arthritic pains compared to a minor headache. The second dimension is staying power, degree of repetition, the inability to become satiated. For example, raw hunger compared to a craving for gourmet foods. And the third dimension is scope, the number of people who share this desire. For example, the number of men willing to pay $10 for an automotive accessory that saves gas, as compared to those willing to pay the same price for one that merely prevents future repair bills. Every product appeals to 2, 3, or 4 of these mass desires, but only one can predominate. Only one can reach out through your headline to your customer. Only one is the key that unlocks the maximum economic power at the particular time your advertisement is published. Your choice among these alternate desires is the most important step you will take in writing your ad. If it is wrong, nothing else that you do in the ad will matter. This choice is embodied in your headline. It is for this reason that we spend so many chapters on headlines later on. To sum up the first stage then, you try to choose the mass desire that gives you the most power in all 3 dimensions. You try to tap a single overwhelming desire existing today in the hearts and minds of millions of people who are actively seeking to satisfy it at this very moment. Second, acknowledge that desire, reinforce it, and/or offer the means to satisfy it in a single statement in the headline of your ad. This headline is the bridge between your prospect and your product. It touches your prospect at the point of awareness that he has arrived at today. If he is aware of your product and realizes that it can satisfy his desire, your headline starts with your product. If he is not aware of your product but only of the desire itself, your headline starts with the desire. And if he is not yet aware of what he really seeks, but is concerned only with a general problem, your headline starts with that problem and crystallizes it into a specific need. In any case, your headline, though it may never mention your product, is the first vital step in recognizing this mass desire, justifying and intensifying it, and directing its solution along one specific path. And third, you take the series of performances that are built into your product, what your product does, and you show your prospect how these product performances inevitably satisfy that desire. The analysis of your product, what it is and what it does. In reality, every product you are given to sell is actually 2 products. One of them is the physical product, the steel, glass, paper, or tobacco that the manufacturer has shaped into a particular pattern, of which he is justly proud. The other is the functional product, the product in action, the series of benefits that your product performs for your consumer, and on the basis of which he buys your product. The physical product does not sell. People do not buy the steel in a car, the glass in a vase, the tobacco in a cigarette, or the paper in a book. The physical part of your product is of value only because it enables your product to do things for people. The important part of your product is what it does. The rest, the steel skeleton, the chrome or metal case that you actually deliver to your customer, is only your excuse for charging them your price. What they are really paying you for is what the product will do. No physical part of your product can ever become a headline. No one will buy the size of your client's plant, the weight of your client's steel, the care of your client's construction. All these facts can only be used later on to document and reinforce the primary performance that you promise your reader in your headline in the following ways. 1. By justifying your price. This is the common sense theory that the longer the car, the more tubes in the television set, the more stitches per inch in the suit, then the greater the number of dollars your product can command, if that product first delivers the performance that your prospect demands. 2. By documenting the quality of your performance. Tell your prospect the weight of steel in your car's door, and he's more likely to believe that your car will protect his life if he should have an accident on the highway. Tell your prospect the number of times your plant removes the impurities in your face cream, and she's more likely to believe that your cream will remove the impurities in her skin. 3. By assuring your prospect that performance will continue throughout the years. Ceramic mufflers mean no repair bills for the life of your car. Chemically protected paper means you can hand your prize books down to your children. Quick frozen food means you can retain taste and vitamins for months after your purchase. 4. By sharpening the reader's mental picture of that performance. The Rolls-Royce must give you perfect riding silence because every metal part of the chassis is shielded from every other metal part by a protective coat of rubber. Helena Rubinstein's new face cream must make your skin look younger because it contains the placenta of living animals. 5. And above all, by giving your product's claim of performance a fresh new basis for believability. This is the most important use of the physical product in fields where a new firm or product is attempting to invade an established mass instinct field. Others have made the same claim before. Your product, in order to pull sales away from them, must introduce a new mechanism that performs the claim, or a new quality that assures its performance, or a new freedom from old limitations that improves the performance. This is the point of difference, often conceived by the copywriter and built by the manufacturer at his recommendation. We shall discuss this point of difference quite thoroughly in the next few chapters. So much for the physical product. It is always subordinated to the functional product, the product in action, what the product does. It is the performance of your product, satisfying the mass desire of your market, that provides the selling power of your ad. Your first task, then, in studying your product, is to list the number of different performances it contains to group these performances against the mass desires that each of them satisfies, and then to feature the one performance that will harness the greatest sales power onto your product at that particular time. Take the automobile, for example. Every automobile offers its prospective owner several different and distinct sets of performances. It offers him transportation, the ability to carry himself, his family, his luggage, and perhaps, in the case of station wagons, his pets and his furniture from place to place. It offers him dependability, the freedom from breakdown, stalling, poor performance, repair bills, embarrassment, and inconvenience. It offers him economy, inexpensive transportation, savings in both gas and oil, freedom from repair bills, seen this time from the point of view of the pocketbook, durability, high trade-in value, low insurance cost. It offers him power, number of horses at his command, takeoff at the lights, acceleration on hills and in traffic, top speed, even if he never uses it, all adding up to a feeling of dominance on the highway. It offers him recognition, admiration, status, subtle and accepted bragging, envy, the feeling of having arrived, the ohs and ahs of his neighbors, the first ride, the very smell of a new car. It offers him value, the number of feet of steel he can command for the price, high trade-in value over the years, the fact that the car can last for 100,000 miles even if he can afford to trade it in every year. It offers him novelty, power steering 5 years ago, electric door locks today, 3-tone paint jobs yesterday, iridescent paints now. The thrill of being the leader, the pace setter, the proven pioneer, and many more. Some of them hidden, never admitted, discovered only recently by motivation research. Dozens of different performances, built into the same product, each of them reaching out and tapping a different desire, a distinct public. And yet your ad can feature only one of these performances, can effectively tap only one mass desire at a time. Your headline is limited by physical space. You have only one glance of the reader's eye to stop him. He is preoccupied. He is not looking for your product or your message. The span of his attention will admit only one thought to penetrate his indifference during that glance. If your first thought holds him, he will read the second. If the second holds him, he will read the third. And if the third thought holds him, he will probably read through your ad. Every product gives you dozens of keys, but only one will fit the lock. Your job is to find that one dominant performance, squeeze every drop of power out of it in your presentation, and then convince your reader that that performance and that satisfaction can come only from your product. The next 4 chapters will show you how to locate that one dominant performance and how to transform it into your headline. Once you have written that headline, then every other performance contained in your product simply reinforces and documents that main appeal in exactly the same way as the physical product facts listed above. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more direct response content.